as we gear up to launch the Tabletop Galaxy podcast, and this Wednesday's Session 0 gets closer and closer. I'm getting more and more excited. So for today's vlog, we're going to switch gears a little bit from Dungeons & Dragons, shift over towards Star Wars, and let's talk a little bit about spaceships. One of the really cool things in the Star Wars role-playing game, of course I'm specifically talking about Edge of the Empire because that's basically the framework we're going to be using. This is by Fantasy Flight Games. The one thing that is really cool about this, and the others, there are of course 3 versions of this game that all intertwine beautifully, whether you want to play Force Wielders and that sort of thing, or Clone Troopers and such, or just, you know, smugglers and other types you might find on the Outer Rim. Then this game is great, and each one kind of works pretty seamlessly with the other. Now for our group, we are of course starting with Edge of the Empire, as I have mentioned previously, and I'm so excited. I'm such a Star Wars geek. I know you noticed this because I'm constantly wearing Star Wars t-shirts, and I talk about it a little bit here on the vlog too. And as we gear up, one of the cool things we get to consider is that depending on how you start the game, you might have access to a ship, and for our game we are definitely going to use that option. So right now we're sort of like narrowing it down. Again, we're just getting ready to have our session 0 where we're going to talk about character concepts and background and how our characters know each other, kind of dial in our character sheets and get everything sort of finalized before we get ready to actually launch session 1, which will be in 3 weeks on October 23rd. So this Wednesday, we'll be doing our Session 0. Please stay tuned to my Twitter, and I will be announcing when and where you can find us. We are planning to be playing live at 6:30 Pacific and 9:30 Eastern on Wednesdays. Please stay tuned again. My Twitter information is in the details of this video, as always. And this and every video, it's always linked down there, so come check me out on Twitter, and then stay tuned for that. Now, in the meantime, let's take a look at these ships, and maybe you can help me narrow it down. We've kind of narrowed down to 3 ships that we're considering. We might do slight modifications to them, but I'm going to walk through these real quick, and I'll put up some images for you to follow along as well. So let's start off right away with, of course, the classic. This is the YT-1300 Light Freighter. Now, this is essentially the Millennium Falcon, the Han Solo and Lando Calrissian special, right? This is the quintessential classic freighter that most Star Wars fans are familiar with. It is a really well-rounded freighter, right? This ship has pretty good cargo capacity. It's got 2 weapons in game terms, and it's got decent armor and structure and so forth. It's pretty darn fast, and it handles like okay. It's not great handling. It's not meant to be a very sleek, quick, fast ship, but it just happens to be that if you know how to drive it like Han Solo did, and of course if you add some little modifications, again, like Han Solo did. So this is kind of the quintessential Star Wars ship. This is one that is way high in the running for us, of course. The next one we're looking at is also pretty cool. This one is called the YV-560 Light Freighter. It's a little bit, very slightly sturdier. It's pretty much got some of the same as far as arms and armor and that kind of thing. It handles a little bit better. But one thing that's interesting about this one is it doesn't quite have the same cargo capacity. So the YV-560 is a pretty comparable ship to the Millennium Falcon or the YT-1300. It's got some slight differences. That's really all there is to say about this. It's a pretty solid ship, and it looks cool, so it's definitely another one of the runners. Last but not least, out of the 3, we're sort of narrowed down to the YT-2000 Light Freighter. Now, this one, again, is pretty comparable to the other 2. It has the most cargo capacity, but only by a smidge over the 1300. However, it has a little bit better structure and armor than the 1300, and there's so again, the handling's about the same, the speed's about the same. This one does have 2 weapons, whereas the 5600 only has 1, so it's the lightest of as far as the weapons. So really, when you look at this, and I'm gonna link the details, I'm gonna link the information for where I got all this art and everything, and if you want to check them out on your own, really one thing that you can kind of boil things down to is honestly how long these things are capable of sort of self-sustaining, because the YT1300 is only good for about 2 months, whereas the YT2000 is good for 3 months, but the YV560 is good for 8 months. So the YV560 could manage longer runs in space without restocking. So if you're hiding out or whatever, you could conceivably wait for quite a while before you need to think about restocking, refueling, and so forth. Now, honestly, I have no idea how much any of this is going to come up in our game. It might just be sort of our home base that we use from, in between sessions and that, or when traveling from one system or one planet to another and that sort of thing. So it may just be a lot of flavor, but boy is it fun to think about. So I would love to hear from you guys. What do you think? What would, if you had the choice between one of these 3, I mean, I know it's so easy to just go for the 1300, go for the Millennium Falcon style ship. Now remember, we can customize these and kind of stylize them however we like, but these are the bare bones, the basics that you come with, that the ships come with. And so I'd love to hear what you think. Share your thoughts with me today, and I will see you tomorrow. Keep rolling 20s until then, unless you're playing Edge of the Empire, and then make them triumphs. And remember, it's your game. Play your way.